Come on. I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, it's like worth living, should I blast myself? I'm tired of being born.
Thank you for tuning in to the only station giving you double the information and inspiration, WDRBmedia and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte. This is the More Than Just Science Show, and I'm your host, Miss TK the Chemist. Welcome to our show on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to join us today, and for that, I want to say thank you. If you want to get in touch with me about anything you've heard today or on my past shows, please reach out to me on Instagram at TK the Chemist, Twitter at TK the Chemist 01, Facebook, My Gems Science Center, on my website at mygemsforkids.com. But you can also call or text me at 320-403-2436. Now, if you want to get on my show as a special guest, or if you want to get some free advertisement, please reach out to me. My schedule is getting very packed, so if you want to be a part of my show before the year is out, go ahead and reach out to me. Now, it is the second week of October, and I have a great lineup for this month. Some special guests will be joining me each week as we keep the theme focused on health, wellness, and STEM education. My first guest kicked us off this month was a biologist from Oakland, California, another STEM sister, Miss Kat Bobineau. She opened up this month with some incredible gems as to how we can connect the community with STEM education. Our children need STEM role models, and she has written a book to help shed light on how we can make that connection. Today, I have an amazing woman who is breaking the barrier on what it means to be a superwoman. And by the way, Superwoman used to be Wonder Woman, I stand corrected, was my favorite cartoon character back in the day. I've since progressed to that, where you can't be a Wonder Woman unless you are on top of everything. And in this particular case, I've learned from the doctor that you can't be Superwoman to everything. But this particular doctor is a medical doctor. She's an MD from Durham, North Carolina. And I happened to find her because I was online and I stumbled across this sister's Instagram page. I was impressed with her message and I wanted to seek her out. I saw some of her Periscopes, videos, and she was explaining basically various topics on health education issues. I loved her rawness and candor, so that's why I wanted her to come on to the More Than Just Science show. So when we get back, I'm going to bring this beautiful doctor on to share some jewels with us. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
No more. Got the X on my chest. What up? Making the girls like me. No. Take a girl like me to get a guy like you to understand our girls ain't the same. I'm not your average chick, cause they can't do it like this. I've been sent to save your day and things won't be the same. No, yeah, you, cause I'll save you. I'll save you.
All right, welcome back to WDRBmedia and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte. And those of you all that are tuning in to our free TUNEIN radio app, you're listening to the More Than Just Science show, and I'm your host, Miss TK the Chemist. Well, guess what? This afternoon, I am not the only scientist on board. As a matter of fact, right before our break, I shared with you that we were going to have a special guest for the month of October dealing with health and wellness. My guest today is a very special doctor. She's from North Carolina. She has a practice in the Raleigh-Durham area, and she's going to discuss some very interesting things with you guys this afternoon. So get your pens and paper ready as I bring on my special guest. Who am I speaking of? Dr. C. Nicole Swiner. She is a MD, so I'm sure, guys, she has a lot to offer us. But the reason why I have her featured on my show this month is because this sister deals with something called the Superwoman Complex and how to avoid it. Now, many of you all know, as a woman, we take on the world. We can stir the pot with one hand, talk to our girlfriends with the other hand, and type on the computer and send a text and do it all at the same time. And that's not good. So Dr. Swiner is going to talk to us today about how to balance our mind, body, and spirit. Okay, so she's going to actually give it to us straight. I've watched her on a couple of social media settings, and she really keeps it straight, and she's straightforward, guys. So if you have questions, make sure that you reach out to her, and she's going to give us the ways that you all can contact her. But Dr. Swiner is a family medicine and general medicine expert covering a broad spectrum of both medical and mental health issues. As a wife and mother of two, she uses real-life experiences to clearly communicate keys to better health and wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. Through straight talk, anecdotes, and humor, Dr. Swiner captivates diverse audiences with candor and grace. So please, Charlotte, the Queen City, and surrounding, please give Dr. Swiner a round of applause as she joins us today. Good afternoon, Dr. Swiner. How are you doing today?
I'm good. What a wonderful intro.
Oh, you're welcome. You are welcome. I am so honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to bless my audience with your voice of medicine. So, I would like for you to share with us, why did you even go into being a doctor? Because I'm always fascinated. When I meet doctors, I'm like, wow, you have so much going on in your head. So what made you want to become a doctor? Take us back for a moment.
I think it was a combination of nature versus nurture. I'm not sure which came first, whether it was my true interest in medicine or it was from the encouragement of my family and from mentors around me. I always loved children, so I loved playing with kids. I had a little brother that, I took good care of, I think. I took good care of. And I knew that with that and things that I loved from school, mostly science and math, that I could potentially combine these into a career being a physician. And then, of course, once your school, people at school, teachers, your parents, once they see that you're doing well in certain areas, they kind of encourage those things. Like, oh, you could be a doctor or a lawyer. And I said, well, I kind of like science and math. Let's put that together with my love of children. I'll become a pediatrician when I grow up. And so I'm not sure what came first. Did I have an idea or did others have an idea? And then just kind of pushed me in that direction. But I can remember as early as middle school, having those types of dreams and ideas. And then I was blessed to have mentors in my environment. So my dentist and his wife, they were, he was a family dentist and his wife was a family doctor. And I was able to get my first job with him. His name's Dr. Alfred. He's still practicing in Charleston, where I'm from. He gave me my first real job of being kind of a front desk helper when I was in high school, and he also kind of took me under his wing and showed me about, patient care and how you take care of people, etc. And so with that, having those people around that I could actually see how it was to live, the life of a doctor encouraged me as well.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We need mentors. And I had a young lady on my show last week who discussed how having those mentors helped shape her, because she's a biologist in Oakland, California, and she discussed how the importance of having mentors help to kind of mold you in the right path. I know for myself, I had a mentor indirectly who was my chemistry teacher in high school, because growing up, I did not like science. And so when I tell kids that, they're fascinated to know, well, wait a minute, how can you be TK the chemist? Well, because I was turned off with science as a young girl, my high school chemistry teacher was the one that sparked that scientist in me. So I'm glad I was able to get get the fire set back up under me. So 20 plus years later, I'm still in science. So,
good, excellent, and then now mentoring others like you're doing.
Exactly. And because I'm sure when you were in medical school, there were not that many women in science or even in your in medical school. So could you kind of share with our audience any obstacles you may have encountered on your journey to becoming a doctor?
So I attended medical school back in Charleston at Medical University of South Carolina, and actually during that time, so that was early 2000s, the tides were turning. There was actually, I believe, more women in my medical school class than there were men at the time.
Oh, wow.
But certainly, it was an interesting turn right at the beginning of the 2000s with that trend, because usually, as you mentioned, it's the opposite. And then certainly there were less minorities in the general population. So, I wouldn't say that posed as a challenge or an obstacle. I mean, I definitely had challenges with learning how to study the right way. So I struggled, and I have no qualms about telling people that I struggled my first 2 years of medical school, just trying to, absorb all that information, be able to score well on the test. I'm the type of person, and to this day, I still struggle with a little bit of test-taking anxiety. I get nervous. I get nervous in front of a computer full of multiple choice questions. Immediately, my palms get sweaty, and I have palpitations a little bit. But if you ask me and I talk to you, then, clearly I know the answers, and I can explain, and I can use real-life examples. But if you get me in front of a multiple-choice question, A, B, C, D, all of the above, that's when I get nervous. So I realized that in medical school because, college is a little bit different where, if you went to a really, really good high school and it prepared you well, you can usually use those same kind of things that you did to do well in college, depending on what kind of school you went to. So college was, I definitely had to study, but it was, I had to stay on top of things too. Medical school, the amount of information thrown at you is tremendous. And, for those of us others who have been in grad school of any type, I mean, it is gobs of info that you have to memorize, absorb, and then regurgitate. And if you don't stay on top or you don't figure out the right way, the way that your brain works, it can be really, really devastating. So my biggest challenge early on in med school was going and actually seeing a counselor and learning the way that I learned well so that I could do better on my exams. And so, thank God those folks were there to help me and to help me study so I could make better grades.
Right. Now, I'm so glad you said that about having test anxiety and being transparent even as a doctor, because so many people think that doctors have all the answers, but behind that knowledge and that gray matter, you have to really put in a lot of OT in order for it to come out. And you mentioned how if someone were to talk to you, you could explain it better. I call that my kinesthetic and my visual learners, and I'm the same way. I learn easier by explaining it to you than actually taking a test. And like I tell my own students, I deal with a lot of pre-nursing students. Sometimes you can show me what you've learned by doing a project or a PowerPoint presentation, and my students flourish like that. Some students are not good test takers, but like I tell them, you're not a slow person. It's just you have a different way of learning. But unfortunately, we are assessing students through pen and paper or computerized assessment. So we have to show them that there are other ways to develop that knowledge base and not just simply by pen and paper. So I'm glad you shared that, because the students need to hear that, and my listeners need to hear that. Now, Dr. Swana, as we go on this journey, and you've been in practice for quite some time, can you kind of share with us why you decided to kind of take a different turn in your life in terms of wanting to write books, because you are an author as well as a doctor? How do you have time to do both?
So the first book came kind of out of necessity, to be honest with you. So I was new to the practice. I live in Durham, North Carolina. I went to UNC for residency. So once I finished with Chapel Hill. You know, if you're familiar with the Triangle, as most of you in Charlotte probably are, we have, you know, their neighboring towns, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. So I already established my home in Durham. I said I want to live in Durham. So that's where I started working. That's where I've been ever since. But over the years, after about 5 years of being a practicing physician, you know, day in and day out, I started talking to a lot of my colleagues, both on my level and older than me, about burnout. You know, there's this whole idea about getting burnt out in life, in work, and whatever. And you kind of start thinking, you know, about those things that stress you out at work. You know, what are you satisfied with? What would you change? Do I want to do this for the rest of my career? And I was seeing some of my friends even drop out of medicine. You know, they've been doing, you know, whatever discipline for decades and then ended up either hating it or retiring early or switching to a career altogether. So I said, okay, well, maybe I need to kind of be smart about this. And actually my father was very proactive in asking me, you know, frequently, okay, what's the next move? What's your next step? Because he was very aware. I don't know if he had a premonition or had a dream and the Lord spoke to him. I don't know. But to this day, I credit him with helping. And my husband, my wonderful husband, too, because after I started working, I got married. And my husband is an entrepreneur at heart. And so he said, well, you know, what's your next thing? What do you want to do? And I definitely had to gain more patience. You know, I was the new doc on the block, so I had to get more patience. I started writing a blog for a local paper as a way to advertise for myself. And that became fun. You know, so not only did I do it because it helped to expose me to new patients and help to bring them in to see me and my partners, but then I realized I enjoyed doing it. And after, you know, another couple of years of doing it and sharing it on social media, I looked around at my peers again and I said, I'm really enjoying this thing. I wonder how I can really market it and make it, you know, into something that I earn a couple of dollars from, or be able to go to health fairs and conferences and speak on, you know, as a family doctor. And I said, it looks like you have to have a book, you know, in order to be successful, become, quote unquote, the expert. When you want to go to these things and be invited to these things, you almost have to have a book. So I took all the blog articles that I'd written and things that I'd shared on social media, wrote them down, put them into chapters, and that's where the first book came from.
Wow.
That's how it happened.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. And you know, the thing is, so many people have talents and they think that they have to just be that one thing. Like, you know, yes, I am a chemistry professor, but I also have educational consulting practice where I go out into the schools and I do hands-on science activities or adventures with kids, you know, by evening, so to speak. So by day, I am a chemistry professor, but by night, so to speak, I am an educational entertainer, so to speak. And I love it because it gives me the opportunity to have a balance, and I'm working on some things too. And just listening to the fact that you were able to do it all, it's like, okay, so if Dr. Swanner has time to write a book and be a wife and a mother, how can I put that into perspective as well? So which brings me to the other component of taking care of our bodies. We must take care of our health, because as mothers, you've heard that phrase, if the mother isn't right, the house isn't well. So how should we be taking care of our bodies, Dr. Swanner, when there's so much stress going on right now? How should women take care of themselves? Or what would be like your top 3 tips?
Yeah. Say that one more time.
As a doctor, what would be like maybe your top 3 tips that you could share with us in terms of taking better care of our bodies? Because I know this is Breast Cancer Month, and so many women have dealt with it. I've had some girlfriends who have had to deal with breast cancer. So what would you like to share with us in terms of taking care of ourselves as the, you know, matriarch of the family?
Yes. So the first thing that I always talk about in the first chapter of the first book, How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex, I'll throw that in.
Yes.
On Amazon. The first chapter is called Sleep. Sleep well, sleep often, sleep restfully. So your body needs restorative time. You have to get, the books still say we have to get between 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. That's a good, healthy amount of sleep. If you're not waking up feeling restful, if you're going to bed at 3 a.m. every night, you're not giving yourself enough time to sit down, rest, get your stress hormone levels down. You really, as easy as it sounds, just to get sleep, it's as difficult to talk about because, like you said, busy moms, whether you're working or not, whether you have children or not, really women in general, we are multitaskers, and we're always doing, always moving. Our brains are always on, seemingly. You have to have time to turn it off, so you have to force yourself to turn the TV off, turn the phone off, get sleep. So that's number one. Number two is do as much as you can to have low stress. And it's not always realistic necessarily. You can't always control what's going on at work. You can't always control what's going on in your loved ones' lives because we absorb stress from the ones around us too. But you don't have to do 3, 4, 5, 6, extracurricular activities every year. You can focus on that one most important and prioritize. You can exercise to make sure that your stress levels are decreased. You can, take breaks. If you're working a crazy job and you're always working through lunch and never getting outside and taking a breath of fresh air, force yourself to do that. Get up, get out, get some sunlight, sun rays, reduce your stress level. That's number two. Number three, particularly when it comes to physical health, medical health, we want to make sure that we're getting those checkups annually to make sure that we're catching those disorders that can be silent. Even though we feel good, nothing feels bad, we're not in pain, there are those things that we don't necessarily know about unless we go and get our physical exams and get those mammograms, those colonoscopies, those blood levels, those lab tests. So it's still very important, and particularly for my college-age folks. I know, when you're little, mommy has made your physical appointments, your school physicals, and you stay on track. But once you go to college, there's this gap between the ages of about 18 to 30.
Right.
You might get lost and you forget that you're supposed to go.
Right.
Right?
Yes. And I think that's because,
you gotta go and get your checkup so people can check on you.
Yes. And, my daughter is in college, and, I think about how the infirmary, well, they called it the infirmary back then, but now they call it the health center. Oftentimes, the only time they'll go is if they are sick, but like you say, in terms of taking care of their womanhood, that's another issue because mothers aren't there to, helicopter them and to say, all right, is everything okay? They're not going to tell us because they're grown now in their eyes. So I think it's very important. And since you talked about the young girls getting their examinations, what should they, at what point should they be examined? Because if they're saying that they're not sexually active, for instance, they may feel they don't need to go. So at what point would you then say, should they still, go, even if they're not sexually active? Because I think that's when they think that they should go.
Right. Yes, you should. Even though you are not sexually active, you should still go yearly to have your checkup. Because we need to check, things like your blood pressure, which you wouldn't normally know about unless somebody's actually physically taking it. We check your blood sugar, which can be abnormal without you knowing it. We need to look at your weight. Has your weight significantly increased or dropped? And we need to be thinking about other things. So yes, even if you're not sexually active, you need to be going in and getting or sexually active. You need to be going and get your checkup.
Yes, because sadly, some of our young girls are experiencing high blood pressure, diabetes, things that I would say grandma experienced, but now it's hitting the younger age group a lot sooner. Right. And that's sad in and of itself. So I know that this is Breast Cancer Month, and I would be a disservice if I did not mention that to my listeners. What could you share with them in terms of some of the new studies that are out there? Because I remember back then when I was turning 30, it was, you had to wait until you were 35. Well, I'm like, okay, but women are getting breast cancer in their teens. Well, in, I guess, rare cases. But what should we be on the lookout for in terms of taking care of our breast health?
Yes. So within the last couple of years, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of them controversial as far as when to start mammograms and how often to get them. The mainstay, of the cancer societies that talks about breast cancer now says that we should wait until age 45. So you're right. It used to be, 35 if you had a significant family history, then it was 40, then it was 50, all over the place. But now the age they're saying, quote unquote, is start at age 45. However, I always talk to the patient. So I talk to them about their comfort level. I talk to them about their family history, and I talk to them about what they want to do. So if I have a 38-year-old whose mother was diagnosed in her 50s or in her 40s, or someone who's just really, anxious about their breast health, then by no means do we have to wait to get that mammogram done. Myself in particular, so I see patients all the time, I treat patients all the time that have been diagnosed with cancer of all ages, so I personally decided that I didn't want to wait until I was 45, even though I have no family history, I don't smoke, I don't have those usual risk factors, but, after talking to my family, my husband saying, yes, I think this is a decision for me, we went ahead and did it. So at 37, I had my first mammogram, and thankfully it was normal. But that was my decision. And I talked to my doctor, and my doctor agreed. So I guess if you take nothing else from listening to me today, know that you can be your own advocate for your health. Okay? So
yes.
No matter what the studies are saying or what literature says, you should have the confidence to go in and say, okay, I know that I'm supposed to, the literature says this, but I would feel more comfortable if we did it sooner.
Yes. Well, and oftentimes so many women are afraid to go because of what they may have seen in the media, or maybe their family members have had to deal with it, and so it frightened them to say that they're not going to go. But it really hurts me that so many of my girlfriends in my age group have been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I am so fortunate to say that they are all survivors, and I will continue to, yes, and I will continue to stress to them and to myself that we must take care of our bodies, and we must listen to our bodies and be in touch with it. It's like, don't be afraid to touch, because if you don't touch, you don't know. I'm sure that there have been men who have discovered breast cancer in their wives or girlfriends because, they're, touching them and something didn't feel right. So it's okay, ladies, if your husbands or boyfriends are touching you, because they need to be in tune with your body too, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
Yes. Yes. Well, Dr. Swanner, go ahead and give your social media contact. And you have a book, and I want you to share that with my listeners, because I want them to pick that book up, because you talk about the Superwoman complex. So go ahead and promote that book.
Yes, well, I'm happy to say today that you're actually the first person outside of our group that I'm telling. As of today, the second book that I wrote, called The Superwoman Complex, A Follow-Up Visit, is now an international bestseller as of today.
What?
I'm so excited about that.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, she broke it first.
Very excited.
Okay, well, I'm excited that you broke it first here on the More Than Just Science show with TK the Chemist. I feel so honored that you've done that. That is awesome.
That's right.
Yes.
So both books. So the first is called How to Avoid the Superwoman Complex. The second one that came out August of this year is a follow-up. So it's called the Superwoman Complex, A Follow-Up Visit. Both are available on Amazon. Both are also available on my website, which is DocSwiner.com. And you can order it through my online store. If you like audiobooks, if you like electronic reading on Kindle, it's available, and both books are available in all three formats. So we're very excited about that. And on social media, you can catch me almost anywhere at Doc Swiner. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I appear on Periscope. I do a weekly broadcast on my channel, Doc Swiner, and also on Perry Girls TV. Perry Girls is a group of women broadcasting on Periscope. They have their own channel called Perry Girls TV. I do a weekly broadcast on Wednesdays there. And, yeah, you can catch me anywhere.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I am going to be sure to pick up both of your copies of your international bestsellers, and I'm going to give them out as gifts as well, because your book is needed, because again, so many of us think that we have to be superwoman, which brings me, as we close out our show today, you wanted to leave the women with that song Superwoman by Karen White. And why did you want to leave us with that song?
It's perfect.
Exactly.
Perfectly. Have the confidence to tell somebody that you are not their superwoman. Take care of yourself.
Exactly. And you know what, ladies, with that being said, we're going to close out our show and listen to that song, because I remember that song came out back when I was in high school. And so, and I didn't understand what she was talking about back then, but now I know, being a mother of 3 and a wife, I completely understand that. So I thank you so much for coming on the More Than Just Science show, Dr. Swiner. And I look forward to having you come on more often to give our ladies some tips on taking better care of their bodies.
Absolutely. I'll come back whenever you have me.
Okay, well, thank you so much. All right, thank you.
All right.